This isn't just some trendy personality quiz result. It's a glimpse into the architecture of your soul. And look, I know what it's like to grow up thinking something's off with you. You feel everything. Way too much. You walk into a room, and boom, you're hit with an emotional forecast before anyone speaks. Crowds drain you. Surface-level conversations. Torture. You used to wonder why, right? Why do I feel so much while everyone else floats above it all? But here's the thing. It was never a flaw. It was the first sign that something rare, something powerful was waking up inside you. You weren't too quiet. You were just tuned in to a different frequency. You weren't awkward. You were absorbing emotional data no one else even noticed. Carl Jung, the man himself, didn't see this as a disorder. He saw it as introverted intuition, a deep, often unconscious form of knowing. It's like having a radar for truth and patterns, a soul-guided compass that leads you places logic can't. That kind of perception, it's visionary. And sure, misunderstood, but unmistakably real. You feel energy shifts before they land. You notice what goes unsaid, tone, body language, silence. You're labeled intense because you refuse to play shallow. You crave substance, truth, and inner resonance in a world that's become addicted to noise and nonsense. You're not here to blend in. You're here to see through it all. To lead, not by speaking the loudest, but by understanding the most. So if this message feels more like a mirror than a video, that's no accident. This is for the INFJs, INTJs, lone wolves, pattern seers, soul whisperers, the rare minds navigating a loud world. And if you felt like you just don't quite belong here, maybe it's because honestly, you weren't supposed to. Let's dive in. 7 subtle signs that you're not just introverted, you're an intuitive introvert. And we're decoding them through Jung's lens, straight to the bone. Chapter 1. You don't just look at the world, you read it. Here's what I mean. Most people see what's there. You see what's beneath it. They observe. You decode, while everyone else is caught up in the noise and the images, in the forced smiles and current trends. You're quietly tracking the undercurrents. Reading what's not being said. You're not reacting to life. You're reading it like a script scribbled in invisible ink. You walk into a space and boom, the whole emotional atmosphere floods you. You can feel who's lying, who's nervous, who's pretending to be confident but is actually barely holding it together. No words spoken, no explanations, etchen. You just know. Carl Jung called this a magical ability of the mind. Intuition gives outlook and insight. It revels in the garden of magical possibilities. You notice the micro shifts others miss. You connect things that don't look connected, because your mind sees threads, not fragments. And no, you're not overthinking. You're witnessing. You're not into games. You're playing chess in a world still figuring out checkers. And the thing is, you don't need the spotlight. You just need the truth. They might say you're too quiet, that you think too much, but really, you're just letting your silence gather the real data. So yeah, when someone throws that you're overanalyzing line, just nod. They have no idea what your mind is doing behind the scenes. Chapter 2. Solitude doesn't drain you, it restores you. Let's clear something up real quick. You're not antisocial. You're not cold. You're not boring. You're selectively social. And that's emotional intelligence most people don't even recognize. You're not avoiding people, you're avoiding noise. You don't chase crowds. You crave connection. And if it's not meaningful, if it doesn't feel real, you'd rather be alone. And honestly, I respect that. Carl Jung got this. He said, the introvert is turned toward the inner world. concerned with the inner psychic processes. And for you, that inner world, it's not empty, it's everything. It's your sanctuary, your lab, your temple. It's where you build visions, where you map out futures, where you reconnect with your actual self. You're not isolating, you're incubating. While the world loses itself in endless chatter and noise, you're over here, walking your mind like it's a sacred forest. You trust the quiet. You trust your own company. Because somewhere along the way, you realized something huge. You don't need a room full of people to feel worthy. You need alignment. While others chase applause and likes and filters, you're after truth. And if truth means solitude, you'll take it. No hesitation. They say, why are you so distant? And the answer is simple. You're conserving your energy. You know it's precious. Not everyone gets access. And that's not rude, that's wise. Your solitude isn't a symptom. It's a strategy. It's where you heal, where you create, where you remember who you were before the world tried to rewrite you. And here's the wild part. In a world that screams, see me, validate me, love me, you've mastered the thing they fear most, being fully present with yourself. No masks, no performance, just you, whole and honest, in your sacred stillness. And honestly, that's rare. That's brave. That's you. Chapter 3. You're both the observer and the architect. It's kind of wild, isn't it? Having this strange, almost secret ability that lets you step outside the noise, even your own. Not everyone has that. In fact, most people don't. You feel everything, sure, but you can also zoom out, like you're watching your own thoughts from some quiet place in the corner of the room. It's not detachment, it's awareness, and it's rare. It's like being in a glass tower during a storm. You see it, hear it, maybe even feel the floor tremble a bit beneath you. But you're not in it. You're analyzing the pattern of the lightning, not panicking over the thunder. That's where your superpower lives, in the space between reacting and reflecting. And let me tell you, not many people live there. For INFJs, it shows up as deep emotional perception. For INTJs, it's surgical thinking. But either way, there's a thread that ties it all together. You don't just feel or think, you design. Carl Jung had a name for this inner balance, this sacred symmetry, the functional axis, a bridge between intuition and either thinking or feeling. It's what turns raw perception into insight, intuition into strategy, empathy into vision. Ever wonder why people turn to you when things fall apart? Why your advice lands even if you only speak a few words? It's because you've been quietly blueprinting the whole time. Not plotting, just noticing. Connecting dots most don't even see. You're not louder than the rest, you're deeper. And while the world chases noise, you're busy rearranging the architecture of energy. You don't overanalyze, you optimize. You don't react impulsively. You move with purpose. Even when you're just sitting there watching, listening, you're collecting. You remember silences others forget. You replay conversations not to obsess, but to understand nuance, subtext, energetic shifts. You're not the architect because you want control. You're the architect because reality feels like a puzzle only you were meant to solve. And when your design finally unfolds, people call it intuition, destiny, luck. But deep down you know it wasn't any of those. It was your vision, your mind, your mastery of what most people can't even name. Chapter 4. You feel like an old soul in a world that's sprinting nowhere. Have you ever just stopped in the middle of a crowded street or scrolling session and thought, what are we all doing? Why is everyone rushing? Why does everything feel so loud, so surface? And why, even when surrounded by all this digital noise, do you still feel alone sometimes? Let's be honest, you've probably felt this for years, maybe even since childhood, like your inner rhythm is out of sync with the modern world. You're not slow, you're deliberate, you're not weird. You're remembering something the world forgot. There's a name for that feeling. It's not anxiety, not depression. It's soul hunger. And you're not crazy for feeling it. You're an old soul. One of those rare beings who carry the weight of something ancient. Like wisdom passed down not through books, but through being, through feeling, through intuition. While others chase likes, you crave meaning. While they strive to be seen, you long to be understood. You're not here for the performance. You're here for the presence. Carl Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, a deep shared pool of human truth that some souls seem more attuned to. And guess what? You're probably one of them. That's why lyrics hit you like déjà vu. Why you cry over sunsets, why your heart aches when someone lies, even if no one else noticed. You don't just observe the world, you feel it hum beneath your skin. And it's overwhelming sometimes, painfully so, because while everyone's chasing speed, you're built for depth, stillness, truth. But that stillness, it's not stagnation. It's where your magic lives. You dream in metaphors. You speak in symbol. You catch truths floating in between the lines of what others say. You're not outdated. You're timeless. People might tell you you think too much. What they don't see is you're not thinking. You're remembering, sensing, translating things they don't even know they're feeling. You're not meant to keep up with this world's race. You're meant to interrupt it with your presence, your questions, your refusal to play along. And yes, it's lonely sometimes. Old souls often are. But you weren't meant to fit in. You were meant to realign the compass, to help this fast world remember what it feels like to pause, to breathe, to matter. So don't shrink. Don't adapt just to be accepted. You're not here to perform. You're here to remind the world what it forgot. And if that sounds like too much, then maybe the world needs to expand. Because your depth, that's not a flaw. That's your purpose. Plain and quiet and powerful as that. Chapter 5. Your energy is quiet, but magnetic. You don't have to be loud to be heard. Honestly, you don't even need to say much at all. Your presence, it speaks for itself like an echo that lingers long after you've left the room. And no, you're not posting every second of your life. You don't need to broadcast your every breath to feel real. Because, and I've seen this over and over, your power isn't something you throw around. It's something people feel. It's that low hum of calm in a room full of chaos. There's this unspoken truth stitched into your energy. Something like, I see more than I say. It's subtle but strong. And people pick up on it, even if they can't quite explain why. You walk in, and there's this quiet shift, not because you're flashy, not because you're performing, but because your energy announces you without a single word. It's wild how stillness can be the loudest thing in the room. Let's be real. It rattles people, especially the ones who rely on noise to feel important. You're calm. It unnerves the insecure. It exposes the fake, and it draws in the ones who are actually awake. You're like a lighthouse, not a spotlight. You don't need to outshine. You illuminate. Carl Jung had this idea, individuation, becoming whole, integrating your shadow, your ego, your soul. Everything. It's not some woo-woo thing. It's real work. And people who've done that kind of inner excavation, they vibrate differently. You're not here performing. You've already passed that phase. You're showing up fully, quietly, powerfully. That's why people trust you, why they confide in you 5 minutes after meeting you. It's not random, it's resonance. You've done the work and now your energy speaks it fluently. You don't gossip, don't chase clout, don't compete for attention. And that alone, that's rare, dangerous even. Your silence, it doesn't mean emptiness. It means presence. It means restraint. It means you've got power and you know how to hold it without needing a stage. In a world addicted to noise, you're the one tuning into the frequency that actually matters, truth. Chapter 6. You crave purpose over popularity. Let's just say it, fame, may. It never really did it for you. You've seen how hollow it can be. All the followers, the filters, the endless highlight reels. They don't fill the space you're trying to reach. Because deep down, and I mean really deep, you've always been after something more. Something real. Something that outlasts algorithms and applause. It's not about being seen by everyone. It's about being remembered by the right ones. You don't want viral. You want value. You don't want attention. You want alignment. You'd trade 10,000 views for one honest connection any day. And that's the difference. The INFJ in you wants to heal, to help, to be the calm in someone else's storm. You want to leave people better than you found them. The INTJ in you, it's a builder, a visionary, mapping out systems, ideas, futures, not for credit but for impact. Both types move from something deeper than ego. They move from vision, and that vision, it's not loud. It doesn't need a press release. It lives in your chest like a quiet flame, steady, persistent, sacred. Jung wasn't exaggerating when he said individuation is a sacred process. This isn't just psychology, it's soul work. And the fact that you feel pulled toward more, that itch you can't shake, that's your calling whispering. Don't settle. You were never made to follow trends. You're here to interrupt them. And yeah, it's frustrating sometimes. Being misunderstood, feeling too deep in a world that barely skims the surface. But that frustration, that's proof that you still care, that you haven't abandoned your mission. You've always known this wasn't just about you, it's bigger than that. So don't shrink. Don't sanitize your truth for people who'd rather scroll past it. Don't trade your sacred purpose for digital applause. Because, and this part gets me every time, one day, someone's gonna stumble upon your work, your voice, your story, and it's going to hit them like a lifeline. Not because it was flashy, but because it was real, and it reached them exactly when they needed it. That's why you're here, and that's why you keep going. Chapter 7. You don't guess people, you read them. Let's be real. You've said it so many times you've lost track. I knew this would happen. I could just feel it. Something felt off. And yeah, maybe people roll their eyes. They say you're overthinking, or just lucky. Or maybe they think you're fishing for attention. But deep down you know. You weren't guessing. You were processing, like quietly and all at once. Your brain's not just observing. It's decoding, pattern scanning in the background. Not in a spreadsheet kind of way, but something softer, intuitive, primal almost. Carl Jung had a name for this. He saw it as a unconscious mind doing its thing, picking up subtle clues like body posture, energy shifts, micro expressions, the hesitations between words, Things most people miss because they're not paying attention. You notice them without trying. You just do. It's not like you're walking into a room with a radar, but you kinda are. You feel that tension before anyone speaks. You know who's faking it before they open their mouth. You sense the disconnect, that moment when someone's words and their energy part ways, and something in you just goes nope. You don't take notes. You don't need to. Your nervous system is the notebook, and it writes everything down in ink you can't see but somehow still remember. They call it vibes. You call it alignment. You've been clocking behavior patterns for years, probably since you were a kid. Quietly, consistently, without realizing it was even a thing. You're not trying to read people. Your nervous system just does. It's automatic. A full body awareness that doesn't turn off. And let's be honest, you're rarely wrong. Because this isn't woo-woo. This isn't some cosmic guessing game. It's skill, lived experience, quiet observation stacked over time. A kind of behavioral fluency. While most people focus on the loudest person in the room, you're tuned into the one who stays silent. That's where the real story lives. Always has. You were never built to ignore what's beneath the surface. You were built to see it. And no, it's not about judging. It's about self-protection, energy hygiene, emotional integrity. So yeah, when someone asks you, how did you know? Just smile. You don't need to explain. It's not magic. It's awareness. Chapter 8. You question everything, especially yourself. You don't just question the world. You turn that spotlight inward, daily, loudly, quietly, sometimes painfully. It's like your brain refuses to coast. While some people are out here fine with surface-level answers, you're somewhere in the back of your mind asking, but what if I've been wrong about everything I thought I knew? You don't walk around convinced of your brilliance. You walk around wondering what blind spots you're still missing, what inherited ideas need unlearning, what truths might be buried under all the noise. Who am I really underneath the people-pleasing, under the survival mode, beneath the layers of learned behavior and generational weight? Why do I feel like I'm built for something specific but vague? Why do I experience emotions like tidal waves while everyone else seems to paddleboard through life? These aren't casual curiosities. These are internal earthquakes, soul storms, honestly. People call it overthinking. Sure, maybe. But also, maybe they've never stood in the middle of a monsoon of self-awareness. Carl Jung would say this is individuation, your psyche's way of deconstructing everything false to find what's real. It's not madness, it's the opposite. It's clarity, earned the hard way. You're not lost. You're dismantling. You're unpacking inherited beliefs, cultural conditioning, childhood programming. You're asking the questions your parents didn't dare to ask, and maybe their parents didn't even know how. And yeah, it's lonely. Deep work always is. But there's a strange kind of beauty in it. Because while others numb out, you lean in. You sit in it. You let it break you open, not down. You're not looking for peace that comes from ignorance. You want the kind that comes from radical, brutal, soul-cracking truth, even if it guts you first. That's why shallow distractions bore you. That's why your conversations aren't small talk. They're deep dives. You reflect on things others avoid. Why am I here? What does wholeness even mean? What wounds am I carrying that aren't even mine? You grieve versions of yourself that never had the space to exist. You carry pain that didn't start with you, but still lives in you. You want a peace that doesn't pretend, You want clarity that reaches your cells. So when people say you think too much, you just nod, because they don't get it. You're not thinking. You're unraveling. You're becoming. And the becoming, it's messy. It burns, but eventually it births something holy. Something undeniable. Something that hums with a frequency no lie can survive in. If you're questioning everything right now, good. You're not broken. You're waking up. Chapter 9. You didn't just meet your shadow. You shook its hand. Most people, they run. They distract themselves with dopamine and deadlines. They bury their darkness under polished Instagram captions and over-polite smiles. But you did something wild. You turned around. You stopped running. And you faced it. The guilt. The resentment. The self-sabotage. The shame so old it didn't even have words anymore. You sat down with it. You let it speak. You asked it questions like, "What have you been trying to tell me?" And when it answered, you didn't flinch. That's not just self-awareness. That's spiritual grit. Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You didn't chase love and light aesthetics. You got in the mud. You excavated. You let yourself bleed. But you didn't bleed on others. That matters. You didn't ghost your inner child. You sat with them. You didn't bypass your triggers. You tracked them to the source. You didn't numb your heartbreak. You gave it language. And when people now say, "Wow, you're so calm," they don't see the war you survived to earn that stillness. You're not soft. You're forged. You didn't kill your shadow. You invited it in. You said, "Let's make peace," because we're stuck with each other anyway. And that's when everything changed. That's when integration happened. That's when your power stopped leaking out and started grounding in. You're not ashamed of your past. You're grateful to it. It taught you the difference between fake healing and real wholeness. You are not delicate. You're divine. You are calm like a hurricane. You are gentle like truth, spoken with a trembling voice. You are someone who's done the inner excavation work and still has dirt under their fingernails. And that's not a flaw. That's your origin story. That's your root system. That's why when others fall apart, they come to you. Because you didn't just survive your darkness. You turned it into light. Chapter 10. You feel other people's pain like it's your own. It's not just that you notice when someone's in pain. You feel it deeply, like it leaks right through their skin and seeps into your chest, settles in your bones. You don't need to ask them what's wrong. You already know. It's in the slight hitch in their voice, the forced smile that doesn't quite reach their eyes, the silence that feels heavier than it should. While others scroll past or politely look away, you absorb it, not because you want to, because you honestly can't help it. Some of us are just wired this way. INFJs, emotional sponges. They take on the unspoken pain of everyone around them like it's their full-time job, even when it's clearly wrecking them. And INTJs, they might look distant, even calculated, but they're right there with you. They just analyze suffering like a riddle they were born to solve. Either way, it sticks to what? Burrows in, stays. Not because we're weak, but because we're awake. Carl Jung once suggested empathy isn't just a feeling. It's a gateway, a kind of psychic bridge to the collective unconscious, a connection that runs beneath words, beneath time. And you feel that connection every day. You cry over things no one else even blinks at. You leave a conversation and feel like you're dragging someone else's storm behind you. People have called you too sensitive, too emotional, too much. But here's what they don't get. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's a damn superpower. In a world addicted to numbing itself, you feel. In a culture that says toughen up, you soften. You pause. You notice. You care, even when it hurts. And sure, it's exhausting, draining. Sometimes it feels like a curse wrapped in velvet. But here's the truth. You weren't designed to avoid pain. You were built to transform it, to take in the ache and somehow turn it into wisdom, to pervert raw suffering into the kind of compassion that changes lives. You're not fragile. You're finely tuned. You weren't born to go numb. You were born to remember what connection feels like. You don't just hear pain. You feel it ripple through your nervous system. Maybe that's why you're here. Not to carry everyone's weight. Not to fix it all. But to remind the world. Feeling isn't weakness. It's the first breath of healing. And honestly, the world doesn't need more armor. It needs more hearts like yours. Chapter 11. Your imagination is a portal, not a pastime. People think you're zoning out again, that you've checked out, lost in some imaginary daydream while the real world spins on without you. But let's be real, you're not escaping. You're building. This isn't avoidance, it's architecture. You don't retreat into imagination to hide. You go there to reimagine, to visit a reality that hasn't arrived yet, to trace the outlines of something sacred, something you can feel more than describe. Others use imagination to escape. You use it like a map. You sit in silence and visions come to you uninvited. Future conversations, moments that haven't happened, but somehow already feel real. You walk through entire timelines like a ghost with a blueprint. And here's the thing. That's not just some cute daydream. That's deep spiritual intel. Carl Jung called it active imagination. He believed our minds weren't just daydream machines. They were portals, symbols, dreams, imagery, all messengers from the unconscious. You're not just imagining, you're decoding. You're speaking the language of your soul. You've seen things in your mind so vivid they outshone reality. You've lived futures in your head that felt more textured than your current life. And those visions, they don't go away. They haunt you in the best way. You don't just dream. You reverse engineer. Quietly, strategically, with a kind of knowing that's hard to explain. It starts in your head, but then your feet move. You take the first step toward a version of yourself that already exists somewhere out there. And slowly, invisibly, your life shifts to meet it. That's not fantasy. That's divine design. People might say your imagination is wild, and maybe it is. But it's not chaos. It's creation. Yes, it can be lonely. Let's not pretend it isn't. Because most people, they can't see what you see. They don't hear the whispers. They don't feel the pull. They think your dreams are delusions. Until one day you build them. So no, don't shrink your vision to make other people comfortable. Don't tone down your fire to fit their lukewarm. Your imagination isn't a playground. It's a portal, a whisper from the deeper self. A thread that leads home. So keep dreaming, keep seeing, keep imagining like your life depends on it. Because honestly, it does. That vision forming, waiting on you, just you, to bring it through. Chapter 12. You were born to lead, but not in the way the world usually defines it. Not with noise, not with fanfare, not with followers. You lead the way gravity leads. Subtle, but undeniable. You never had to announce your presence. Honestly, that's always felt off anyway, hasn't it? You just show up, and somehow people feel steadier when you do. You never craved the spotlight, and you didn't chase it. You just radiated it, quietly, powerfully, like it was stitched into your DNA. Long before anyone handed you a title or gave you permission, you were already leading. Not through control, but through calm. Not with speeches, but through stillness. Because your power, it's not in how loud you are. It's in the frequency you hold. It hums beneath your skin like a tuning fork. While some shout to be noticed, you observe. You listen so deeply it rattles people. You catch what they didn't even realize they were saying. And while others grip for control, you went inward. You did the real work. The hard, quiet, messy work of mastering yourself. Carl Jung once said something that still gives me chills. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that's what you've been doing, right? Becoming, burning through layers, sitting with pain most people run from, transforming, not for applause, but because staying asleep wasn't an option. You've walked through emotional hellfires that nobody saw, fought battles no one thanked you for, and still you emerged not hardened, but clear. You're not the loudest in the room, but people listen when you speak. You don't dominate, but your presence recalibrates the whole atmosphere. You don't lead because you want followers. You lead because you've been through the dark and know the way out. That's why people trust you, not because you claim to have all the answers, but because you're one of the rare few who isn't afraid of the truth. Your clarity, it was earned. Your wisdom, paid for in silence, in solitude, in the trenches of your own psyche. You don't need hype. You don't need slogans. Your presence alone says, I've been to the edge, and I came back intact. That's leadership. Not titles, not fancy bios, but lived integrity. Your life is the signal. It tells people, hey, you can rise from this. You're not broken. You're in the middle of becoming. And when the world says, prove yourself, you whisper back, I remember who I am. So even if you've been dismissed, misunderstood, or overlooked, let's be real. That's never defined you. Because leaders like you, you're forged in the fires no one sees. You carry calm into chaos. You hold truth like a compass. You don't bend to be liked. You stand to be real. And the way you hold space for others to rise, without dimming your own light, that's rare. That's sacred. That's leadership. So move forward. Not louder but deeper. Not to convince, but to anchor. Because the most powerful people don't shout. They whisper and the world listens. You're not ordinary. You never were. Let's stop pretending you are. Let's stop shrinking that brilliance to make others comfortable. This isn't about labels, NMJ, INTJ. Those are just containers. You're what spills over. You're a living, breathing Jungian constellation. A soul blueprinted to see beneath the surface, to feel in frequencies, to translate energy into meaning. You don't just walk through life. You decode it. You read the room before a word is spoken. You track emotional currents like a silent storm chaser. Not to control, but to align. You act not to impress, but because your inner compass says, this is true. While others scroll, numb, hustle, prove. You sculpt. You build reality from the inside out. one intuition at a time, one moment of clarity, one soul-aligned choice. You don't perform, you radiate. Carl Jung didn't study the psyche to label it. He studied it to liberate it. And that's what you're here for, isn't it? To free yourself, and by doing that, become a lighthouse for others. Your sensitivity, it's a strength. Your silence, it's a strategy. Your depth, it's You've never fit in because you weren't supposed to. You're here to stand out without trying, to shift rooms without raising your voice, to teach by being. And this season of your life, it's not about chasing, it's about remembering. So let them call you too much or too quiet. Let them try to name what they can't understand. You smile, because they're not seeing you. They're seeing the unfamiliar and calling it strange. But you're not lost. You're tuned in. And your path, it's not straight, it's sacred. So keep sculpting, keep sensing, keep breathing depth into this surface level world. Because we don't need more noise. We need more truth, more presence, more souls willing to feel. That's you. Anchor your intuition. If even one line in this hits something, even just a whisper in your chest, you're not alone. You're part of the rare few, the intuitive architects, the quiet visionaries, the ones who don't just walk the path, they carve it. You weren't here to blend in. You were here to beam like a signal from another timeline, a deeper one, a truer one. So if you've always felt different, this is it, the confirmation. You weren't broken. You were intuitive. You weren't fragile. You were forged for awareness. And now it's time to own that. Say it out loud or quietly to yourself. I see the world differently, and I'm done apologizing for it. Say it like a spell. Say it like a vow. Say it because it's who you've always been. And if you feel that truth in your bones, hit like. Not to feed the algorithm, but to honor your own. Subscribe not for content, but for connection. Because what we're building here, it's not entertainment, it's evolution. And send this to someone who's always felt like too much. Because maybe they've been waiting to hear. You're not broken. You're rare. You're not here to explain your soul to people who refuse to listen. You're here to embody it, to lead with it, to remember. Welcome home. Today we talked about what it really means to feel deeply, see patterns others miss, and carry a quiet power most don't understand. Explore the unconscious with us. Subscribe so you don't miss the next videos.